Hey, welcome to another episode of the Get Made Podcast. Got a little story for you right quick. Probably not even a story. Brothers, I'm talking to you again today, as always, on the Get Made Podcast. We let women monopolize, devour, use, overuse, exhaust words that we really kind of run away from. And we started trying to use these words, and sometimes people start thinking, man, that's too feminine. Those words are feminine. Women use these words. But real talk, we as men should be using these words as well. And what word am I talking about today? Boundaries, limitations, guardrails, sidewalls, or whatever you want to call them. You need some masculine energy in that, right? Whatever you want to call that. This is what we should be using or should be doing. And part of the problem is we actually be trying to do it. And I'm going to run into a couple of things. I'm going to talk about how to establish boundaries, and I'm going to talk about why it's important to use this word and how we started trying to establish. First, I want us to look at boundaries from a position of prioritizing self care, first and foremost. If I'm prioritizing self care, if I care about my state of being, my mental health, my overall health, I should be establishing some boundaries. I should be creating some limitations. This is another one of them. I should be creating some limitations to where people are not just going to penetrate a particular level with me. And I need to be in a position of clearly articulating that, communicating that, which is another reason why we should start establish boundaries. Right? So far I'm looking at three things. I have self-care, I have establishing limitations, and I'm trying to communicate, articulate that. Here's where the problem come in. And first, I want to give this fourth one, which is readjusting these boundaries, reevaluating your boundaries. Because every now and then, as you get older, some boundaries, more boundaries come into play. More values come into play. Because that's what we're talking about in some of this, you know, where I'm not going to allow somebody to trample over my values, right? And so when we start looking at this communication piece, as men, we always try to do this anyway, but then we get ran off of this word boundaries because what we get told is that we're being too aggressive or we're being too dogmatic or we're being too stern or because what we tend to believe and what we use the word is structure. That's the word we commonly use for boundaries. Structure, right? It's a masculine word, right? It encourages strength. It shows strength. It shows foundation. It shows all these type of things, right? That's the word we use. But then we have a lot of women who say, oh, who get scared of this word structure. Oh, he's just trying to change me. Oh, he's just trying to make me the way he want me to be. Right. And so we start hearing that. And then we start dealing with women who kind of dealing with a little bit more independence, if you will. And they got their own minds, right? They think for themselves. And they don't want no man telling them what to do, right? And what happens is you allow yourself to get trampled over. You don't allow structure to be established, i.e., you don't establish boundaries. You're not establishing your boundaries. You're not putting pillars in play in order to say this right here is what's going to hold these walls up, and this right here is what's going to hold the center up. Because you're not articulating your values, right? You're not really being in a position of saying, here, hey, I'm not trying to be aggressive with you, right? I'm trying to establish, you know, a real connection with you, because this is one of the reasons why we should be using this word boundaries, because these are the words that people know. We got to use the words that people used to, regardless of how you might believe it might be feminine or not. You got to read, you have to read, because this is what they understand. And this is what I've been trying to come to everybody about lately, is we have to use words as common. And as men, we shouldn't be afraid of these words. Now I ain't trying to tell you to be nobody punk, anything that you're there. Now I ain't saying that, because that's not what we at. That's not what grounded masculinity is about. But we have to use the language that's being established to make sure you establish yourself. Because what is happening is you're getting ran off of establishing who you are. You know, everybody got more rights in the house than you. Your dog, your cat, kids, everybody else get your woman, everybody, you the last one on the totem pole. Everybody else got rights but you. That's what it feels like. You know, for some of you brothers out there, I know you do. I know this is what it feels like, especially for men who come into what is an already made structure, already made family. It doesn't feel like you are actually instituting who you are in that. You're not establishing boundaries. And if you come in too hard, oh, you coming in too hard. You coming in, you're not taking into consideration everybody else. And that might be true, because sometimes we've been taught a particular thing with what looks like traditional masculinity, and what some people call now toxic masculinity is to some degree, or hyper masculinity, right? There are these things here, and it's not coming in with grounded masculinity, seeing the wisdom, really checking out and doing recon on the situation, and understanding how people move and how they are, and what's their makeup, what's their personalities, and all these other type of stuff here, and then easing and then establishing a situation like that. Right? We come in guns blazing, and that's not going to work. And that's not establishing structure. That is coming in, kicking everybody in the behind, and not trying to make everybody get right based upon what you believe is get right. Now, that's not what we're talking about, right? So you're looking at a person who's trying to grow, and by exercising wisdom, you are taking on some personal growth, right? You are making sure that you looking at a situation from a variety of views, and you're not just looking at everything from ground level, but you are taking it up 30,000 feet. You're taking it up about 5 miles high, so you can see down and you can really observe the whole landscape, right? And I say this now because here's what's happening with a lot of my brothers, and it's been happening for years, especially brothers who go into, a majority of us who are at a certain age are in relationships with women who have children by other men, and who have already had established families. And you coming in and you want to try to establish a family there. You want to establish your field in that family. You want to get your field in the house, right? You want to stake your claim in the house. And we do it wrong. Either we do it too hard or we do it too soft. We either move too hard, we come in throwing elbows and swinging swords and blazing guns, or we come in there with pillows, all cushiony. You can squeeze that cat, man. He feel like a teddy bear coming in, so that ain't gonna solve, right? That's not a good way either. You have to find the middle course. And I want to say, how do you find the middle course? How do you establish boundaries? How do you let someone know what are your boundaries? How do you clearly articulate what it is? And how do you listen, right? Listen to other people's boundaries, their values. Let's change that word boundaries to values. How are you listening to other people's values? What are some of the things that they hold dear? What are some of the core things within them that they are holding true and dear to? Right? So a boundary don't have to be this standoff. I don't know, some of you cats might be a little young, which I don't know anything about it. Back in the old, when we was coming up, you used to have them cowboy flicks. Cat be coming and they stand off, looking at each other. Me against you. We're gonna shoot it out. They ain't hiding behind nothing. They gonna say that, real men. That's how they do it. That's real men just do it. I ain't trying to tell you to do that, right? Suicide. Okay, I'm not trying to tell you to do that. But what I am saying is that as men, we have to establish our household based upon some good morals and good values and good etiquettes and good standards of behaviors that you like to see, that is going to be conducive for the people in the world. We want to put good citizens out here. We want to be good citizens, and we want to put good citizens out here. First, you're going to have to learn what a good citizen look like. Make that foolishness that they got going on out here in the world nowadays. In some instances, you need to learn some standards and some values. You need to understand what honor looks like, right? You need to establish some codes other than these foolish street codes that they got going on out here. This ride or die, or this all these old type of other things that people be saying that it sound good. It sound good, but what you really develop is misplaced loyalty. And y'all calling that honor, calling that being down. I don't know what you're calling it. I call it crazy. All right. You got to be able to establish some boundaries and letting the person know where you are not going to allow them to cross over a particular line or a particular value. And you want them to be able to say, hey, look, I want to respect your values as well as I want mine respected. And now, real talk, there is, there should be a pecking order in the house. That doesn't mean that, it's big eyes and little U's, but there should be some, different, the deference that takes place. There should be some guidance that should be sought. And yeah, it should be the husband or the man of the house whose guidance is being sought, right? You know, it shouldn't be a culture, then a subculture going on within the house, right? It shouldn't be that. That happens. And I ain't gonna lie to you, brothers. Some of you who know, who, you know, fortunately were able to marry women who have children, it was already a culture going on before you got there. Now you're trying to establish a culture on top of that. That culture really hasn't went anywhere yet. But you're trying to establish a culture on top of the culture. And you're going to run into some resistance here and there. That's when your wisdom come into play. That's when your personal growth come into play. That's when you start promoting your own self-respect. You start, holding yourself accountable, right? And holding others accountable, but you hold yourself accountable, right? You have to be boundaries allow you to to show self-respect. It's not so much that you're getting respect from someone else, you holding respect for yourself, right? You're holding respect for yourself. And then in that, you get to foster better relationships with the people who are around you, not just in your home, but if you're establishing boundary, you at work, you're establishing a boundary at work. You're establishing boundary with your friends, your close associates, right? If you are doing this, if you are, showing yourself to be a respectable person, you hold high esteem for yourself, you hold self-respect for you, you have some self-respect, people are going to see that. And you also treat people with respect. People will gravitate to that. And if they cross the line, they will hurry up and get back from it and get back behind it, because you don't got to be the person who carry a big stake. You just got to be a good person, a person who doesn't move from the values that you hold, right? So when you are doing this, you're holding yourself in high regard. You're holding yourself, you having self-respect. You having respect for others, right? You are then moving with the balance, with the balance. And I talked about this a couple of weeks ago in the Friday 15-minute Friday frenzy, that you walk in with a balance. You show up the right way everywhere, and you come congruent. And you have congruent. You have that within you that aligns properly. So you don't look like a hypocrite out here. You saying one thing and doing something else. That don't mean that you're gonna always get it right. That means that you're going to try to get it right. You know, some people throw these words at you. Oh, because they see you failed in some reason, or you didn't show up in your best self in a particular situation. They want to label it as being a hypocrite or something. No, a hypocrite is one who continuously do that. He's going to be one who continuously show up that particular way. He's going to be one way this way, then one way somewhere else. This way, this way, this way. He's going to be real chameleon, right? You don't know what his values are. You don't know what he holds to be true. He or she. You know who they are, right? We're not talking about that. That's not what we're talking about. But we are talking about for you brothers. Let's not be scared of this word boundary. And let's not keep it getting used against us. Because I'm sure out of the people who listen to this podcast, who watch this podcast, I'm sure men, you have heard this word repeatedly. You have to respect my boundaries. It's like somebody just put that word on TV, on the computer, and wrote it across the screen saying boundaries, and everybody just got glued to it, and that's how they come up. Well, boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. That's all you hear, without a real understanding of what the hell boundaries really is. Somebody told you to say that word, so this is what it is. Okay, brothers, I'm trying to tell you, okay, yeah, you say that daggone word too, but you know what it is that you're trying to do. And if you ever get lost and try to figure out that word again, come back and look and listen to this podcast and get yourself back on point. Because we as men, we're going to stop being scared of words. And we're going to stop allowing words to be used against us to make us look like something wrong with us. We ain't perfect, But I be daggone that everybody else ain't gonna be right, and I'm the only one gonna be wrong around here. Everybody else gonna get they gonna be heard and gonna be their boundaries respected, and I'm just a bag of poop over here. Just over there, do your thing. We call you when we need you. Come on, and men want you to be in a position that you're tired of it. We're gonna stand up. We're gonna stand up right though. We got these crowns, and we're gonna straighten these crowns. You know, we ain't gonna always keep hearing about the women they wearing talking about crowns, and really supposed to be a tiara, but they get to straighten the crown. They done took something masculine and try to make it theirs. No, you are the one with the crown. Got to take these. We got to take this language back. We have to take it back. But we have to use this language. We have to assert ourselves. And we teach something at a class that I teach in the prison system. It's a basic guerrilla works class. Shout out to the basic family, right? My mentor, he taught us this. He said, "Look, aggression is moving forward without the regards to others, and assertiveness is moving forward with regards to others." We can move assertively. We can move assertively, and we can have regards for others' feelings, others' thoughts, others' values, others' principles, others' concepts. We can move forward with that. We can honor that, but we can also have ourselves honored. Right? We can also have ourselves honored. We got something too to add to the world, men, especially black men. We got something to offer to the world. Quit letting them tell us that there's something wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with us. We may not have it all together, but by God, we are here. We are here. We are forced to be reckoned with. We need to stop allowing them to use language to continue to capture us. We still be, if it's not slavery, it's prison. They're always trying to capture and corral you and bunch you in by using words. And we fall for it every time. No, this word is your power. These words are your power. Boundary is your power. Establish a boundary. Establish a boundary. You can call it structure, but you know what you're saying when you say structure. When I say structure, I'm saying boundary. When I say limitations, I'm saying boundaries. When I'm saying guardrails, I'm saying boundaries. Everybody got boundaries. There's a whole society out there full of laws. What do you think those are? Boundaries. You see this octagonal sign is red. It got these four letters across of it. What does that stop? That is a boundary. It's telling you do not do, because if you violate that and I see you, I'm gonna give you a ticket. If you run that thing, it's got lights on it. One is green and one is yellow, one is red. If you run through that thing, I see you, I'm giving you a ticket. They ain't even got to see you. Now they got cameras that's going to catch you. And I'm going to see you that ticket. Why? Because you violated a boundary. You ain't got to be scared of these words either. There's a reason. Many of us have religion, who practice religion, have spirituality. What you think those books are meant for? Establishing boundaries. You have to establish. Ain't no free fun. Ain't no free do what you will in this situation. Everything got to have principles and values. What do you think those are? Boundaries. Let's get it together. So let's stop being scared and stop letting people just work us with words. quit, allowing words to castrate you. That's what's happening. You're allowing words to castrate you. They're taking your jewels, partner. They're taking your jewels. Why? They're just saying it. Then they start acting out different ways. You need to stop this. You need to stop it. And it stops today. For some of us, it's probably stopped already. But it stops today. I want us to share this. I want us to really be in a position to share this podcast, share this episode, put this episode out there, and let people see this episode for what it is. Comment on this episode, share. Let's build a community around this. Let's build our community. Let's share this with your community. Have these conversations within your community, within your silos or your enclaves or, your family or your partners and your organizations and associations. Let's have these conversations. Let's have these conversations. And, I'm trying to be a little better now, but I got to use this word. And let's quit bitching about stuff. Let's stop calling her and venting. Okay, that's the better word to use. Let's stop venting all the time. My whole head came back. Y'all gotta forgive me, right? I had to think about it. Let's stop venting, because the only thing you're doing is complaining. Stop complaining. Let's do something. Let's stand up, even when it's uncomfortable. Let's sit in that discomfort. It's okay. But grab these words back. Search yourself. Grab these words back. Have real meaning. This is grounded masculinity, brothers, sisters. Encourage your men with that. I had a sister on a client yesterday. Her and her husband. She was sitting at the table with her soon-to-be husband. She was talking about how she felt like he wanted to do it and everything. He's like, you know what? Because if I said I don't want to push back, and she said, okay, I know it might be some pushback, but if you assert yourself, that thing pretty sexy. That assertion is pretty sexy. And she like, I may not like it at first, but I'm gonna get with it. I've been doing a particular thing for a while too. Okay, I want to do something different. I just want you to step into that. Step into that masculinity. Step into that role. And you don't have to be an ass to do it. You don't have to be crazy to do it. You ain't got to act like a nut to do it. You ain't got to scream and holler and bust holes through walls. That's lack of impulse management. That's emotional deregulation. That's not boundaries. You're emotionally deregulated. We talk about that a lot here. That ain't who we talking about. That dude need to come holler at me, and so he and I can kind of work together so we can get him right. Because I got a whole program for you with that. Try to get yourself together and kind of get yourself emotionally regulated. And that's okay if you emotionally deregulated, because some of us have been cultivated to be that way. Why? Because they have used words and systems to make that happen for us. It's not your fault, but it's your fault if you stay there. Once the information comes to you, it's your responsibility to follow through. You no longer have the excuse. You no longer have the excuse. Once that information touch your ears, it's incumbent upon you to do something different. It's incumbent upon you to do something different. Right now, we talk about establishing boundaries. Hey, I appreciate y'all this week. As always, share with your community. Catch me on YouTube, streaming on YouTube. Please subscribe. And what we're going to do is we're going to see you guys. Oh, make sure y'all catch me on Friday at 15-Minute Friday Frenzy. And we're going to see you guys next week.